Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Jason with bentswoodworking and welcome to the 2020 shop tour video. If you guys have been following along, you know that the Army recently relocated me to Indiana, where this is my final assignment in the Army and where I will be retiring. And while I was very sad to leave my 20 by 24 detached workshop, I cannot even begin to tell you how excited I am to be in the current shop. Now, this is not going to be your typical shop tour video. I'm not going to walk around and talk about every single tool individually. Instead, I want to kind of walk you through the ideas and the storage solutions that I came up with, the tool locations and why I placed them there, and kind of the overall workflow of how something comes into my shop and how I go about doing everything that I do in here and why I set it up the way that I did. So to start this video off, I'm going to kind of give you a few of the dimensions for the workshop that I'm currently in. My garage measures roughly 19.5 by 29.5. The ceilings are about 9.5 feet tall. It is a 3-car garage. A few of the modification that I made to the garage is the addition of the epoxy flooring, the addition of 22 48-inch 24-watt LED lights from American Green Lights, and my shop is climate controlled with an 18,000 BTU mini split unit from Mr. Cool. And for those of you that want to find out more information about each one of those things that I just listed, I have an entire video series that I've done leading up to this video that kind of breaks down each one of those items more specifically. So one thing that's really nice about this garage is that there's only one wall that is attached to the home. Another benefit to this garage is that there is nothing above the garage. It is just open attic with insulation in it. So now that I've given you pretty much just the overview of some modifications and the size that I am working with, let's go ahead and get into the shop layout itself. So as you move around the room from the wall that is attached to the home and just go down the garage doors, then moving to the back wall where my miter station is located, and then moving around back towards the home. And this is pretty much the wall that I store the majority of my lumber, as well as my CNC machine. Just so you guys know, for reference, I will be using a wide angle lens in this video simply because I want you to kind of get a good picture of what it is that I'm talking about. So the spot that I'm standing right now, when I designed this shop, I did this for a couple of reasons. One, in the event that my wife ever needs to park here due to very, very bad weather, this is the space that she will be able to fit her car. Luckily for me, my wife does not have a large vehicle, and so there's really not a lot of changes that I have to do. However, because it is a possibility, I wanted to keep that in mind when I was designing this shop. Now, the other reason that I did this is you can see behind me, there's a nice open area right here. So my mindset behind this is anytime I'm going and buying lumber or picking up lumber to bring back to the shop, I can open up my garage door and I can utilize this space right here to download all the lumber. Something else by design, you'll notice that I have the folding outfeed table on my SawStop table saw. And so one of the great things about this is I'm actually able to use this to support long sheets of, say, plywood or melamine or any other product that I'm using for a upcoming build. And I'm able to actually pull it out of the back of the truck and support it on this table, so it makes it a lot easier for me to download all of these materials. So now as we go down that garage door side, the two tools that I have here, these are two of the tools that I do not have hooked up to permanent dust collection. And so the location that I just showed you, that open space, that is there in order for me to use these machines. So anytime I need to use my router table, I can simply move my router table over into this open area. Same thing applies with my drum sander. If I need my drum sander, I move it over into this open area. And then when I design my dust collection, I actually plan to have a third hose, which is an auxiliary hose, which is only used for that when I need it. One other thing that I wanted to make sure when I was setting all of this up is that I was able to have, we'll just say about 48 inches to the left side of the blade. Now, am I ever going to need 48 inches to the left side of the blade? It's highly unlikely. My original plan was to keep these two machines, my router table and my drum sander, in the open area. However, I did start running into problems. If I was cutting something really long, then they were just in the way. So it just made sense to put it in the location where they're not going to impede any kind of cut that I may have to make at the table saw. The other thing too is with all of the different materials that I've been bringing in here for different projects for the shop, it just made sense to leave this area open. So moving further down the wall, I've got my drill press, which is a change from my previous shop. I previously had the big, large Powermatic drill press, and I just realized that, you know what, I really didn't need the capacity of that. And to be quite honest with you, I really just didn't want to move it because it's one of the biggest pains in the butt to move a big drill press like that. So I ended up selling it and getting this Nova benchtop drill press. And I'm really glad that I did. I haven't really used it all that much yet, but the nice thing is it's in a perfect location to where it's out of the way, but it's co-located with the area where I would probably end up using it from the most. And I'll explain all that once we get to the assembly table. Directly to the left of my drill press, I have the drill press cabinet that I built in my previous shop that some of you guys might remember. And inside of it is just random items that I might need at my drill press. Directly above that, I have my retractable hose reel, and this is a Volt King hose reel, which I got from Rockler. Anytime I need it, I can pull this down and I'm able to reach any location, anywhere in the shop, but especially around my assembly table. So that has come in super helpful so far. I backed you guys out so you guys can kind of see the stand that I have my drill press on, because in the bottom of it, this is where I actually placed my air compressor. The reason I placed my air compressor in this spot is because this is centrally located in my shop. I would be able to easily reach anything on the outside and anything on the inside. Another change that I made in this shop as opposed to the last shop is adding one of these retractable hose reels. This is a 50-foot retractable hose reel. And this now gives me the ability to use my air compressor basically anywhere in my shop. Which, let's be honest, really the only time it ever gets used is when I'm blowing stuff off or using a brad nailer. And now I brought you down to one of the favorite parts of my shop, and that is the wall that I created to wall in the single garage door. I mentioned before that I removed the rails to kind of open this area up. And I will tell you, it makes a huge difference, and it's given me a ton of storage options. I've got basically all of my clamps, all of my measuring devices, and a few other odds and ends. Now, the difference between this and my previous shop is that in my previous shop, everything you see on this one small wall was on two separate walls. So that was definitely a huge benefit to be able to utilize this space and get everything on one wall, nice and organized, again, right next to the most important part of my shop. And then above, as you can see, I've got all the different sustainers up there. Well, that was just dead space. And so that was not part of the original plan. That was actually going to be a lumber storage area. However, it just didn't make sense to have lumber storage up there because it would have been a huge pain in the butt to get to. All of those sustainers are empty, but because they're empty, I never have to get in them. So it just makes sense. I just utilize that space to get all of that stuff up off the floor, giving me a ton of room elsewhere. And then over here in the corner is just an area for me to be able to hang my tracks for the track saws. And off to the side of this left wall, I didn't actually make it run all the way to the wall of the garage itself. It's actually just a small little storage cutout that I can place other tall items that are slim and would be able to fit in there. Okay, so this is the back wall. This wall is the wall that has two windows on it, which I actually placed blackout shades just to block the natural light. And I know some of you guys might be thinking like, why would you want to block the natural light? Well, somebody that films a lot, natural light can actually be very detrimental. And that is one of the biggest reasons why I went with the American Green Light LEDs, because the color rendering on these lights is so good. And it really just allows me to film much easier than before. So when I don't want any light coming in at all, I just pull the shades down, and now I know it's completely blacked out and I don't have any of that light affecting the shooting that I'm doing. If it's a day that I just want to get some light in here, I can pull them up and it's really nice to work. Some days I want to work with the garage door open. Some days I want to work with the windows open. It's just really nice. And again, all of this was strategic because of the location of the one thing that is most important in my shop. So on this wall, I have utilized one of these metal pegboard storage solutions. And I will be the first to tell you, I never really had any intention on utilizing any of this metal pegboard type material in my shop. However, with the vision that I saw for the organization of this shop, I went and visited Omniwall, which is actually here in Indiana, and spoke to them and saw some of their stuff, and that is what I'm deciding to use in my shop. And after getting to see the different options that they had in person, I came up with this really cool design that would be able to house all of the tools that I use at my assembly table most often. And not only the tool itself, but also organize all the accessories that come with it. If you guys have been following me for a while, you know that I'm a huge Festool fanatic. And in my last shop, I built an assembly table that would house all the sustainers and I would keep the stuff in the sustainers. With the mindset that I have these sustainers, why am I not utilizing them the way that they're meant to be utilized? I tried it for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then I just started leaving my tools out because I was needing them so often. So as a result of that, I've decided to go back to having the tools out. And this is just a simple, clean solution for all of my most used items when I'm working at the table. Directly beneath that is where I have my miter saw station. And my miter saw station is drastically different from the miter saw station I used in my last shop. In my last shop, I used the J-Bates style, which I built, and it has a lot of benefits. One of the biggest benefits is the additional storage options. However, I knew in this shop that I did not need something that spanned so long on both sides. So on this miter saw station, again, I use the Rockler bases. The depth of these is 24 inches deep, which allows me to put my miter saw very close to the wall. And the width is 36 inches, which gives me about a total of 48 to the left and 48 inches to the right of the blade, which is more than enough to support just about everything that I cut in the shop. I decided not to use any sort of fence for this miter saw station because the only fence that really matters to me is the one that's on the miter saw. So behind the fence on the miter saw, one of the storage solutions that I had is to use these Festool sustainers. And if I'm being totally honest with you, these things have replaced my need for a toolbox. On the left side of the miter saw, I have two 3-drawer sustainers. And on the right side of the miter saw, I have two multi-drawer sustainers that hold all kinds of different things, from screws to countersink bits, to drill bits, to threaded inserts, to marking utensils. There's just so much in each one of these. And again, these are items that I use at my assembly table regularly. Okay, so now I brought you over into the other corner, and in this corner, this is where I have my dust collector. The whole reason I placed my dust collector here, well, there's two reasons actually. One, I'm using the Harvey G700 Gyro Air in the shop. I have a much more detailed video on the dust collector and the ductwork and the install, which I will leave down in the description below. But the two biggest reasons why I placed this here is, one, I knew that if I ever had a long board at the miter saw station, that this is going to be low enough to where that long board could basically go right over the top of this. The second reason has to do with the inlet location. So the inlet is in the bottom corner, but that worked to my advantage in this situation because now I'm able to get all of my ductwork straight up the wall, and this is the primary wall that I wanted my ductwork to be on. Above the dust collection, I have my TV, and of course, this is one of the most important things in the shop, especially during football season. In addition to that, I've also got some different pictures, mainly all Ron Swanson, because what wood shop is really a wood shop without Ron Swanson pictures or quotes? It's a joke. I'm just kidding. If you don't have them, you still have a wood shop. Moving over to the left, I have my two different electrical panels, which I'll briefly explain. And then in front of that, I've got my apron because this is where I put it on and this is where I take it off at the end of every single day, so it's readily available. The other reason why it's so important that it's here is because sometimes I don't have it on. I'm just out here to do a quick task, and the most used tools in my shop are in this apron. So now it's easy for me to just quickly run over here and grab it and get what I need. The panel that you see here on the left is actually the original home panel. I have a 200 amp service. Again, I have a video that explains this in a little bit more detail. From this panel, we ran a separate panel to power the garage, and everything for the garage, all the outlets that I added are all behind here in this panel. Moving down a little bit more, I have my storage cabinet here, and really the only thing that's in here now, it's just become a storage cabinet for glues, different styles of finishes, that kind of stuff. Things, again, that I'm using at my assembly table. Continuing on down the wall, this is the location where I've placed my bandsaw, and also this little shelf that you see right here. This is where all of my camera equipment, my chargers and all that stuff go. And when I'm not using the camera and the camera stand that's actually filming this right now, that actually goes right here in this location. And again, it's just a nice location because it's centrally located in the shop. Above that, I finally decided to I had all these stickers piling up, so I've got my nice little sticker wall, which is almost full, still a little bit of space left. And then directly above that, that is the Mr. Cool unit that heats and cools both this shop. So moving further down the wall, this is my primary lumber storage area. This was not the original plan, but it ended up working out very well because I was trying to think of where I wanted my materials to be based on the way that I work. So I've got some sheet goods here that are getting ready to start a build for a closet renovation for my son's room. The way that it works for me, I mentioned before, when I'm backing in and I'm downloading those sheets then come against this wall. The reason why I chose to use this wall instead of the wall that I had it on is because from here, it's easy access directly to my assembly table where I'm gonna break all of this stuff down. So anytime I'm thinking about stuff like that, I'm thinking, okay, this is gonna come here. From here, where is it going to go? And so that's why this is the best location. And with that mindset, directly above that is all of my lumber. And I don't keep a lot of lumber in my shop. However, this is gonna be the wall. It was dead space. I couldn't use it for anything else. But again, I'm downloading it out of the truck. It's going here. It's centrally located. From here, it's going to go to my assembly table. But in most cases, since I buy primarily rough lumber, it's gonna go from right here to my jointer planer combo, which is directly below it. And then from this machine, it will go to my assembly table and or the table saw. So before I talk about the CNC machine and its location and why I place it there, this door right here actually leads into my house. Now, another benefit to this shop is behind this door is the laundry room, within that laundry room is a slop sink, which is fantastic because I had nothing like that in my last shop. And then there is one more door that separates into the kitchen. So the benefit to that is I now have 2 doors as a barrier for any kind of sound. And what has that resulted in? My wife barely even knowing that I'm out here running any of my tools, which is always good because if you can keep your wife happy, it's good. Now let's talk about the CNC location. So I've got the CNC in this corner, and I oriented it like this because I only need to access the work from this side or from this side. Since obviously I have to have a computer in the shop now, I built this small little floating desk and I placed this chair underneath it because this gives me the ability to sit here and work at this computer station, get whatever I'm cutting on the thumb drive, and then place that in the pendant itself. And then this is actually the end of my dust collection run, and up top I've got one of the swivel ball heads, and again, if you want to find more information out about the actual dust collection, there's a video for it. So the whole workflow of my shop and the way that I do things and the tools that I have, my assembly table right here is the heart of the workshop. And so that is why I have my table saw here and my jointer planer combo. And there's one thing that you'll notice about my shop. Everything surrounds my assembly table. In my shop, my table saw is not the centerpiece of my shop. With that being where I spend the majority of my time, I decided to place my table saw facing away from me, and I'll explain that here in just a moment. And then since I don't do any sort of router table or anything in my table saw, I decided to drop my dust collection down right here with 3 different drops, one for the table saw, one for the jointer planer combo, which is now being utilized on the end of the table saw, which is not being used, and then an auxiliary hose for, like I mentioned before, if I'm using my router table or my drum sander. So the benefit to this is if I need to cut something, I have about 8 feet from the beginning of the blade to my assembly table. So that gives me plenty of ripping capacity. I have over 48 inches to the left of my blade, plenty of crosscut capacity. I can cut 36 inches to the right side of the blade. And the best part is that any materials that I'm cutting here are probably going to originate right here. So I can take my boards, turn, make my cut, take that material, place it back on my assembly table. So now let's take it one further, and the reason why I place my joiner planer combo here is because I have over 8 feet behind me and I have over 8 feet in front of me, which means joining and planing an 8-foot long board or even longer is absolutely no problem because I made sure that I have a clear lane from the back all the way to the front. Now it's important to have the same on both sides because as I'm pushing a long board through here, since this is a joiner planer combo, when I lift this up, I'm feeding the board in from this direction going this way. The other reason why I placed my jointer planer combo next to my table saw, because I'm gonna be using this right before I'm using that. Once I use it on the table saw, then it's going to my assembly table, which is the last thing that I really want to talk about. And so let's go ahead and head over there. So this is my assembly table. This is where I spend 99% of my time when I'm in my shop. Just about everything that I do is here. So this was the one thing that I wanted to put the most focus on in this shop. So in terms of organization on this assembly table, on the side that I stand on the most, I've got multiple sustainer pullout trays and some drawers, and I'm really trying to take my level of organization up a notch in this shop. And one of the ways that I did that is by utilizing some of these Rockler organizational trays, which I find to be very useful. Now instead of my drawers looking like a disgusting mess, they actually look organized and I know where things are. On the back side, I just placed one large drawer, which is actually just a catch-all. Which is why I'm not going to open it for you because it's just full of a bunch of crap. And then off to the side, I've just got a big open bay where I just keep other items that I'm using at the assembly table, to include the pump for the Vaxis, which is a huge instrumental part of this whole setup. I did do another video where I do discuss this, but for the purposes of this video, and since I'm trying to highlight the way that I work, I want to show you guys in this video as well. So what I've essentially created on the top, which this design was not my design, it was a good friend of mine named Matthew, is I've created one mega MFT. A lot of people have asked me, why didn't you just get a top and cut all the holes and make your own MFT instead of getting 3 separate MFTs? That's totally over the top. You're right, it is. However, I have invested a lot of money in Festool, so I am fully committed to that system. So the extruded aluminum rails on the side also benefit me greatly, and that's the biggest reason why I did it. The other reason why I did it is because I wanted the storage underneath the tables as well, much like the Polk style workbench. So not only do I have the ability to use the dog holes, but I also have that storage underneath, and I also have the aluminum rails, which will allow me to use clamps if I need to clamp something vertical, or in this case, if I need to put my Vaxis onto the table. So since I turned all of these, I still went with a track style system, which I'm still able to raise and lower no problem. And the whole idea behind this table is a removable fence. Now this is pertinent to the way that I work in my shop, because if I'm breaking down sheet goods, all I have to do is I can remove that rail, I can remove this fence, I can slide it underneath the table where it goes, and now I have basically a 4x8 work surface to break everything down. Once I have it broken down, I can put my fence back in and install my track again, and I have now created a very large cross-cutting station. From here, if there's any other tools I need to go to, whether it's the miter saw, which is directly behind me, whether it's the bandsaw that is just off to the right of my assembly table, whether it's the drill press, which is just off to the left, or it's the table saw or the router, everything comes from this location to the other tool itself. The other great thing about this table is the fact that I have dust collection for every one of my tools right here at the table, completely separate from my main dust collection, and I can use this one hose on the boom arm, and I can use it from anywhere on this table because the hose reaches every single location no matter what I'm doing. And it's also nice because this boom arm allows my dust collection to always be overhead and out of the way. I could have made this video an hour and a half long where I'm just going from tool to tool, showing you the tools, but based on my audience and some questions that I asked, they all wanted to know why I set the shop up the way that I did and make it be a little bit different from a standard shop tour. If you guys want to find out more about the tools that I use, I'll have a link down in the bottom. You can go to my website and you can see every single tool, and you can find an affiliate link for every single one of the tools in my shop. If you choose to use them, great. If not, just go there and find out more information about them. I want to close this video out by saying thank you. And I want to say thank you to all of you guys that have been following along and have really found value in the video series of me covering the move. I know I obviously haven't been doing a ton of woodworking. Well, guess what? I was moving and I was setting up a shop, and now the shop is set up and it's time for me to get back to woodworking. And I'm really excited about all of the different things that I have planned, all of the different projects, all of the things that I have to do for the new house. All I can say is I am so excited, and this shop turned out way better than I ever planned. And just to be clear, I might change a bunch of things in this shop. One of the biggest reasons I'm so excited to start this built-in project is because I plan on using my assembly table for the entire project, because that's how you test the theories that you have or the ideas that you have to see if they're actually gonna work. So once I get done with that project, I'm starting an entire built-in project for our master bedroom, and I wanna make sure that I get all the kinks worked out prior to that. A shop is a non-stop evolution. This shop looks nothing like my last shop. If you were to go into a cabinet maker shop, a cabinet maker shop is gonna look totally different from somebody who builds tables. So just understand that when you're going through it. Really take the time to think about what tools you need, what tools you have, how you use them, where do you spend the majority of your time, what makes the most sense, what cuts down on the amount of steps that you have to take in your shop, what is gonna make life easier for you. So for those of you that are wondering about shop flow, how to maximize your space, how to set it up the best you can, it's different for everybody. Just think about those things. If it takes you 15 tries to come up with a plan that works for you, so be it. Every time you learn a new technique, every time you start building something new, your shop layout is going to change because you're gonna learn that something else would be better. That's gonna do it for me for this video, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Thank you so much for following along with the entire series. Thank you for being supportive of everything that I do. If you wanna support me in what I do, there's lots of different ways you can do that. You can buy merchandise, you can use my affiliate links, you can use my discount codes, or if you even want to, you can go over to Patreon. I do have a Patreon page, patreon.com/bentswoodworking. Head over there, check it out. If that's something that interests you, great. If not, totally fine. That's gonna do it for this video, everybody. Again, thank you for watching. If you have any questions about anything that I covered, leave it in the comments section down below, or go over to Instagram. You can find me there at bentswoodworking. Send me a message. I'd be happy to help out however I can. So until next time, everybody, get out in the shop, try something new, and I will see you in the next video.